Now, the trial of the 5 men accused of killing the late footballer Senzo Meyiwa will resume again tomorrow. Last week's proceedings finished with the first state witness, investigating officer Thabo Mosia, being grilled as to why he did not interview the people who were present when Meyiwa was shot or test them for gunshot residue. For more on this, I'm joined by legal analyst, advocate Romeo Nthambeleni. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. As we watched the proceedings playing out throughout the course of the week in court, there were some shocking revelations, really just speaking to how a crime scene may have been mishandled. What were your thoughts around it?
Good evening to you, Mpo, and the viewers as well. Look, it appears like this was a bad indictment on the investigations and the police that were conducted during the murder or after the aftermath of the murder. And this is what actually came out very strongly on the cross-examination throughout this week, in terms of how the scene was secured and what was done by the police when they arrived at the scene.
These strange and embarrassing blunders really speak to perhaps even more cause for concern as South Africans want to find out what exactly happened to Senzo Meyiwa, and also asking questions around why the very crucial parts that would sum up this investigation were ignored, like the DNA, the testing of the doors and the gunshot residue, and really leaving more questions than answers.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely correct. Look, in a crime, what you need is to find the criminal and the smoking gun, and this is what the function and the duty that lies with the police in terms of how they investigate the crime and investigate the crime scene itself. So you are quite right to say that it looks like a bad indictment on the investigation procedures and what was done in the crime scene relating to this crime. And you are correct that the state wants a conviction of the people that have perpetrated the crime, and that should be done according to the prescripts of the law, followed by the Constitution, and proper law of evidence has to actually be followed. So it is clear that the crime scene was mishandled. And another critical issue that came out also was the issue of two dockets being assigned to two different investigators and different suspects on those dockets. So you ask yourself a question as to, at this stage, after 8 years, why the dockets were not matched, and we have one docket when the matter is actually proceeding to trial. So you ask yourself a question as to what is going to happen to the other suspects and the other docket, and because this is the only trial that is going to to be conducted for this case. So that is a very key glaring issue that I picked up as well, that it's quite problematic when you have this kind of two scenarios of two different investigators on the same case as well. And there was also an issue of reference to Brigadier Ndlovu that came up quite for a long time, and the NPA previously indicated that he was not a key witness in the trial, and we then now identify that the statement was also not taken from him, which that on its own it's a problematic scenario.
And judging from what we're hearing now, I mean, do you think it was correct, or perhaps it makes sense for the state to say that Brigadier Ndlovu was not a key witness here? Because a lot of what has been said by Mosia really speaks to being guided by Brigadier Ndlovu.
Yeah. Look, by now it's after the fact, and we can only treat the evidence the way we see it now. And he is being referred to a couple of times, and unfortunately, there's no statement that can be interrogated and it can be put under cross-examination. And in law, you cannot work with second-hand information, and that's why you saw that during cross-examination there was continuing of probe as to the information which Mosia was relaying from Ndlovu, who cannot come to the box and testify and be cross-examined by being the person who arrived at the scene, attended the scene, and so that is a key critical, part of evidence that is actually missing. And he was referenced a couple of times, and unfortunately, we'll never get to the bottom of actually what transpired and the exchange of information and how it was actually exchanged. So it speaks to the very same issues that we are referencing in terms of bungling of the crime scene, the investigation work by the police, and how it was done, and it was conducted in a high-profile manner case like this one. So ordinarily, you will think a lot of meticulous attention to detail will be paid in cases like this, but unfortunately, it is not the case as we are seeing now, that a lot of things were not done in a correct manner. You just referenced the shops and on the doors, and then other doors left being unattended. So that's the investigation work of the police that they were supposed to do at the crime scene, unfortunately.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in here. Legal analyst, advocate Romeo Nthambeleni, speaking to the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, which continues tomorrow.